Hey everyone, welcome back in Betsperts Golf here for the betting preview 2024 BMW Championship. Ryan Noonan here, solo again. My cohorts are sick and dealing with stuff, and shout out to Andy, sick again, plowing through it. Hopefully on the mend and feeling better soon. Unfortunately, you get me solo again today. I was solo yesterday on the first look show, which you typically have with Ron, and Ron had some. We got PGA Splits 101, had some family stuff going on there too. So you get me back-to-back days by myself. And I'm going to try to do it a little bit different today. So that way it's not redundant. We get some fresh looks here. Learning a little bit more about Castle Pines in the 24 hours since we last met. I'm going to build a unique model, I think. Yesterday built kind of a core overarching model for Castle Pines, the takeaways there. I'm going to share some betting thoughts here as well. I'm going to get into building maybe a little bit more of a granular, nuanced model. I think probably a little more dialed in specifically on a couple of things that I think matter versus, maybe something that I typically will take a look at more of a longer view of the room. I'm going to dial in a little bit here today. So appreciate you hanging out. If you're listening in the podcast form, we appreciate that very much. Again, these are very much because we are sharing the rabbit hole, our officially licensed PGA Tour database here at Betsperts Golf. It is a little bit more YouTube friendly because I do share my screen and we walk through some of this, and I do my best, and I apologize to try to make it as appealing for the audio listener as possible, kind of walking down who the top 10 is in any category and stuff like that. Obviously, you can also find us on YouTube at Betsperts Golf, all of our YouTube content there as well. And again, probably the best way to consume these shows because we are trying to share this product that we have. Again, it's such a better visual share than an audio share. So I apologize if you are consuming us just by the podcast. Again, I appreciate that very much. We really do. Trying our best to make sure that this is a useful tool for everyone to consume. So let's get into it. Again, if you did not watch the Monday show at all, your first time here, kind of getting a feel for what's going on at the BMW. It's again a rotating event. It used to always be here in the Midwest. I was here at Olympia Fields last year. Fantastic. Probably one of my best sporting memories and experiences in life. At a single bullet on Hovland. I was there most of the week as well. And, follow him around on the back nine, and he took off and went wild. And to be there live on the grounds, chasing a single bullet outright, and to have him take it down like he did was a really, really cool experience. So obviously have good memories, good feels and good vibes for Vic. He earned himself a spot on the wall through it too. Just an awesome event, and new track this year. And I'm really, really excited about it. Another spot close to my heart. We are out in Colorado, Castle Pines, in Castle Rock, Colorado. I got engaged overlooking this course a handful of years ago. So again, in the things that matter only to me category, this is high up there. Excited to get this on tour, and obviously a very unique thing. We haven't come here. No one in this 50-man field has played this track in competitive golf. There's stories. Wyndham Clark's a Colorado native. There is some good YouTube content out there that I consumed since we last met, watching Wyndham Clark play this track. So there's obviously some guys with some familiarity, but not in a competitive standpoint. And obviously the, elephant in the room is the scorecard. We are 8,100 yards from the tips. Very, very unique. We don't see that very often. But again, we are playing at altitude. We are playing above sea level. So we are really, you got to take that with a grain of salt. And the more I think about it, the more I've watched some stuff. Like I'm not going to say it's a short course, but I've leaned a little bit on some longer course stuff because I still think it's going to play a little bit longer. But I don't know. This is probably a pretty standard track in terms of course length. When you factor in the distance that's going to be added through the ability to fly the ball farther in the thin air of Colorado. Some of the holes that are playing a little bit shorter based off of dog legs. I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle. I would lean towards average to a little bit longer, but probably more to the average side than I was even yesterday, now that I've kind of consumed a little bit more content And again, it jumps off the page, right? 70 par 72, 8,100 yards. Like, holy crap! Like, 7,600 yards is a lot. We just don't see anything like that, and it's going to play so different. I've seen the math anywhere between 8 to 16%, depending on the shot, depending on the club. Club spin, ball spins at a different rate here in the thin air as well. That impacts maybe longer clubs more so than your shorter irons. So there's a lot of nuance to it that I'm sure that is going to be interesting to hear. We'll probably hear more from players today when they get on the course and kind of navigate this. Everyone's so dialed into their TrackMan and the distances, and it's some of the best content on the internet. If you're a golf hardo like I am, if you're watching the show, you probably are as well. Scotty Scheffler, like guessing and naming his distances, or he'll tell you how far he's going to hit a shot, or vice versa. Like, he'll hit a shot and then he'll tell you how far that went. Like, their ability, these guys, especially the elites, to be dialed in is going to be something different this week because they are playing different. They're playing in altitude. So that's going to be a thing that is going to be fascinating to watch. I think there'll be some good shot, bad outcome results based off of what to expect here, because guys will probably think that they flushed it and will come up maybe a little bit longer than they expected or a little bit shorter. So navigating that's going to be very interesting here. Again, we are, something we haven't seen very often here, and did a little bit more. Go to the site, watch Friday's or Monday's show. You can get a little bit more of course details. Ron's preview on the site, betspertsgolf.com, is the best out there. And I want to tell you guys too, before we even get started, new partnership and there's no fine print. There is no loopholes. Pop this up here for you. There's no fine print here. You can get a full year of Betsperts Golf right now through our friends at Rebet for just $10. That's it. A full year at Betsperts Golf right now is $250. I think it's pretty cheap, to be honest. Competitive in the space, but with all the things that you get, all the articles, Discord access, picks. You want to pick our brains at any point in the day, jump in the Discord, tag us. We're there all the time. I love shooting, the shit with the guys in Discord. It's a great place to be. I absolutely love our community, and it's fantastic. Plus, you get the rabbit hole. You get all of Ron's work, PGA Splits 101 on Twitter, all of his models, all of his sub models, all of his DFS stuff, player pools, core plays, ownership projections, the other tools that you have in the site, the 3-man or whatever you want to do in terms of like the matchup tool, our DFS optimizer, the custom simulator, all the things that you get on our site. $250 is too cheap. Right now you can get it for $10. Sounds and feels salesy. I just want you to take advantage of this deal. It is insane. Rebet is available in 46 states. So basically, your SOL if you live in Michigan, Montana, Idaho, and Nevada. Otherwise, you have access to Rebet. Rebet is you have more information on it here. Social sportsbook platform that has some unique social elements to their gaming. It's basically, these companies are essentially betting, but they find loopholes through whether it's DFS or calling it, it's just a handful of different things that they can call it together. I don't mean any no harm to Rebets. I just mean like there's sweepstakes platforms basically is the way that they kind of have it here, where you're betting Rebet coins. The Rebet coins are equivalent to $1. So a single Rebet coin is $1. So there's no like funny money here. It is a really cool platform that offers sports betting options on any sport, including golf. So available in any state, basically, right? Except those 4. So again, you can find a way to play on Rebet and take advantage of it and have some fun there too. Otherwise, you can just get access to Betsperts Golf for just $10. Go ahead. This is a free article. If you go to betspertsgolf.com, I'll get some information here in the show notes as well. Though, if you just download Rebet, use promo code BSG, purchase at least $10 of Rebet cash, They will match your initial deposit up to $100. So if you want to play and you like these types of games, go ahead and take advantage of the deposit match. Put it in for 100, you'll get 200, and you can play around. Within about 48 hours, you'll receive notification on how to access your Betsperts golf subscription. And this is, again, you do this now. I know we're coming into the end of the golf season, but a year betting subscription or a year Betsperts golf subscription takes you for a full calendar year. So it's going to take you through this time next year. So lock in 2025 with us now. We're covering all the swing season stuff and all that as well. Lock it in, $10 for a year at Betsperts Golf. This is a limited time promotion. We only have a certain number of these available. So you want to act on this, take advantage sooner than later. It is going to be, it's a great way to take advantage. So yeah, do that. Let's jump in, take a look at the odds. I'm going to share our odds screen. Our friends over at Unabated, great odds screen. So Scotty Scheffler, obviously the top of the heap here, is Xander Schauffele as well. And again, if you were watching this for the first time and first BMW content here, we are looking at the second leg of the playoffs. It is a 50-man field, so limited field, no cut event, right? And that's different. So these odds are obviously a little bit unique. If you're betting in a typical 156-man full field event with a cut, towards the top, not super different, to be honest. You've basically been seeing Scotty hover around 3 and 4 for most of the season. Xander getting a little bit shorter. Interesting to see Rory climbing out a little bit. You can even see, if you have access to ESPN Bet or the score, 15s on Rory. I mean, Rory in full field events has been hovering around 9 to 12 for basically the majority of the season, in events where like Scotty and Xander are in the field as well. And sometimes even shorter if it's a nice course fit for him. Obviously, I feel like he mailed it in at TPC Southwind. Just, I think he knew he was locked in top 5 in points and didn't really care, and was probably going through the motions, maybe trying to fine tune a couple of things here and there, and whatever. Not his best golf over the weekend, and now you're getting a discount if you want to jump back in on Rory at 15. Morikawa's right there as well, hovering between 14 and 16. Patrick Cantlay getting some love between 15 and 18 as well. Hideki coming off of the win last week. Shout out to Hideki. Cashed a winner for me there. 18 basically across the board. DraftKings a little bit shorter at 16. Victor Hovland short. Looks like Circa has the best line at 22, but for the most part, Hovland really short, 14 to 18. That opened significantly longer yesterday. And we were able to take advantage of that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Ludwig out there at Matchbook, if you have some of the offshore stuff, 29s, but basically 2022 domestics, a little longer at ESPN. And the score, Tommy Fleetwood could not make a putt. Lost like 8.5 strokes putting last week. Struck it well though. So maybe a bounce back putting week for Tommy, who is historically a really good putter. 25s or so out there for Tommy. Big Tone calls Utah home. I think he's back and forth between Utah and Scottsdale these days. So we get a little familiarity with altitude. Again, another great ball striking week, which he's been doing pretty consistently. Putter's been better as of late as well. You're out there between 28s, 35 still out there on Caesars, who rarely has the best number on any golfers. 35 on Tony is nice. Wyndham Clark, I think the belle of the ball this week. Everyone loves Wyndham Clark. Colorado native. Again, I think now in the Scottsdale area, but has probably played, probably Finau and Clark have played at altitude more than anyone else that we would know of, based off of just where they're from. And Clark playing better golf as well. 25s, 30 out there still on FanDuel if you want the best Wyndham Clark number. Circa 35 as well if you can get access to that. You get down to Sammy Burns, Russell Henley, Billy Horschel, Justin Thomas, Aaron Rye, Corey Connors. These are guys kind of right around the 50 mark. And again, like you'll see this big group here that's kind of clustered around 50. Again, just a unique thing when we're dealing with a short 50-man no-cut event field. Get some guys that'll float out a little bit longer when you get down here in terms of actual win equity. That's an interesting discussion. Again, you're going up against 4 rounds of Scotty and Xander in the rest of the crew here at the top. It's tough. We've seen basically the cream rise to the top historically at the BMW Championship, in the playoffs. When you get down to this time of year, there's so much at stake for these guys. And again, like it's funny money in a way for some of the top guys, considering how much money they make. But obviously, the prestige of winning the FedEx Cup playoffs is important to guys, right? We can poo-poo the playoff system as it is all we want. I don't think you would talk to any of these guys and they tell you that it doesn't matter. Does it matter in relation to a major championship? I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Like they're not playing for a major right now. There's no majors to be played for. The next big event right now is the FedEx Cup and a crap ton of money. And it matters a ton to these guys. And you want to have as many things to hang at the end of the year as you possibly can. And FedEx Cup playoffs is definitely one of them. So tough to make a case for some guys way deep down the board here. We'll see. Let's take a look at the rabbit hole. Again, our officially licensed PGA Tour database where you can customize, filter in any possible imaginable way here that will, I think, can blow your mind. It's going to be a little bit overwhelming, and that's why we want to do shows this way. That way you can show it to you and show some ways to think thoughtfully about how to use this data to build player pools for DFS, to make betting cards, and to think through how can I leverage this in a way that can that's actionable, right? Because there's a lot of good data, but what are we actually trying to tell a story based off of how this course is going to play? So I did a model yesterday, and I'll share it here. You can see here, you can go into our view expert rankings too, and you can see other folks here as well. You can see Andy Lack of Inside Golf Podcast, Matt Vicenzi, Tap It In Podcast. You get their models here. This is the model that I built. You can see Andy Lack's run a second model here. We should get something here from Ron and Andy here shortly, again, when they're back on and diving into this stuff. But again, you want to look at some of the stuff that we've done, maybe some stats that you weren't looking at or considering. It's a great way to do it. Again, you get a feel for what are other folks considering important this week based off of what we know on how Castle Pines is going to play. So I think it's a great resource to go ahead and take a look at that stuff. You can go ahead and download any of these into a CSV. You can download any of these little scoring buckets or statistical buckets into CSVs as well. Build a model, export it over to Excel, and play around with it if you're well-versed over there, and build little sub-models and whatever you want to do. Lots of different ways to use this database. So what I want to look at here today is, I think there's a case to be made that we're going to have more short irons than I was expecting yesterday. And I said that I thought we weren't going to have a lot of long irons, but I really think we're going to have a lot of short irons for some of these guys based off of how this course is going to play. Some of these shorter par fours, some of these dog legs that if you get it out into the right spot, you're not really dealing with a long iron just based off of how the course is going to play. There's, I think, a good amount of less than driver. I'm not comfortable putting it into like an entire view and modeling less than driver, because I do think some guys are going to be a little bit more aggressive. These are wider fairways. And again, they, depends on the hole for sure. They'll pinch at some spots, but I think there's going to be a missed fairway penalty. Touched on that yesterday again. Put that in the model. But I think there are going to be some generous landing spots for guys here as well to kind of navigate this stuff. So what I really wanted to do is take a look at really ball striking in a little bit more granular way, and really approach. And I always really push back on approach buckets in terms of proximity ranges. And we have the ability to do that here, both from the fairway and the rough. And I want to do that today and kind of model something a little bit different. So this is going to be a model that's, like I said, different than what I typically do. Well, let's jump into it. So I want to look at short-term and long-term ball striking. I want to get a sense of who's playing really well right now, because I think recency, recent form matters. Guys that are playing really well, dialed in. It's really hard to come to a place like this and find it. So if you're not really at your tip top, I think it's going to be a challenging week for you. And again, golf is fickle. Form is so fickle. But we got to lean on the things that are more statistically relevant over a longer period of time. And I think that that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to look at ball striking. Let's look here. We'll go last 50 rounds. strokes gained, ball striking, and ball striking is a combination of off the tee and approach. So we're kind of eliminating short game. We're not messing around with putting at all. Maybe I'll do something with putting too. We'll take a look at it. But let's hear last 50 rounds, strokes gained, ball striking. The names you would kind of expect. Although maybe not. Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele at the top, Ludwig third, Aaron Rai fourth. And that makes sense. I mean, look at Aaron Rai. It's been a ball striking clinic, and he's putted significantly better than his previous baseline. And that's why he's been rolling out of bed, finishing in the top 20, won at Sedgefield, and continues to compete every week. Rory fifth, Shane Lowry sixth, Victor Hovland 7, Colin Morikawa 8, Sepp Straka 9, and Corey Connors 10. Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki, Big Tone right outside there. Okay, makes sense. We're going to add this in the model. I'm going to go ball striking, last 50 rounds. Now, typically when I would do this, I'd cascade it a little bit. I'd do something a little bit more in the middle, like 24, 36. We're double counting, but that's okay. Like it's, again, I think ball striking, approach, those are the things to double count. They're the most statistically relevant week in and week out, the things that matter, the most predictable. But I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to skip the mid-range. We grabbed 50 rounds. I just want last 8. Right now, who's playing the best? It's really interesting to see when you go the inverse here. Some names you would expect, some names we already rattled off, going to be a little bit further down. But again, like last 8 ball striking: Aaron Rai, Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Hideki Matsuyama, Taylor Pendrith, Scotty Scheffler, Billy Horschel, Xander Schauffele, Tom Hoge. Okay. Again, Shane Lowry, Cantley, Big Tone right outside. Again, just right now, who's bringing their best to Colorado? Ball striking, last 8. Again, unique. Don't typically build models this way. We're going to do it a little bit different today. I'm going to do the same with approach. Again, I know I have a little bit of double counting in there. Maybe let's build a high. We'll throw hybrid range in here for approach. Let's just look kind of in the middle here. We'll go approach last 24 rounds. And again, ball striking is an approach. I know this, but this is what we're doing. I want to get real funky here with approach. So approach last 24, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. Those guys are good. Tony Finau, 3rd, Aaron Rai, 4th, Shane Lowry, 5th, Tommy Fleetwood, 6th, Nick Dunlap, bringing in some nice approach form over the last 24 rounds, 7th, Tom Hoge, 8th, Ludwig, 9, tied with Russell Henley. They make out your top 10. Right behind it, Sanjay, Eric Cole, Sepp Straka, Corey Connors. Interesting. All right. Now I want to go in the approach buckets. I don't love this, but I'm going to do it this week because I think we're just going to have some shorter irons here, and I think it matters a little bit. So I don't know how much we're going to have here, and this is why I have a problem with this, is because it's really hard to bake it evenly across because we're going to have to put it into the model and weigh it the same for every golfer, and the dispersion of shots from each bucket is not going to be the same. So this is why, if you watch this weekly, this is my pushback on this process. But because we're going to do it in a little different way, I think it's going to be okay. But again, this is why I kind of stay away from this in a week in and week out standpoint, because I don't know how statistically relevant it is, because I don't know how frequently guys are going to find the fairway, and I don't know how frequently they're going to be playing from that range. So it gets a little bit trickier. I mean, you can see here, the sample is really interesting too. Like last 24 rounds, Aaron Rai doesn't have a fairway approach shot from 50 to 75 yards. So like the sample can be really wonky too, especially when you get into these, like, this is basically chipping. We don't get a lot of these. This is like a severe layup on a par 5, but even that, like, guys typically play back to a range that they're more comfortable in. They don't just, like amateurs, try to hit it as close as possible and then deal with whatever's left. They'll, play to a range and then, go from there. So let's look at, I really want to hone in on, I'm going to add a little bit of this. This is short wedges, 75 to 100 yards. I don't think we're going to have much of it. I'm going to weigh it very little, but I'm going to put it in. Okay. Fairway, 75 to 100. You know what? I'm going to back up a sample with this too. Let's go last 50 rounds. I was on last 24. I'm going to go last 50. Your best short iron players in the field, 75 to 100. Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Cam Davis, Keegan Bradley, shout out Keeks, Hideki Matsuyama, Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, Nick Dunlap, Taylor Pendrith, Davis Thompson. We're seeing some commonality through names here, and this is what I want to lead us to. Okay, I'm going to go fairway 75 to 100. All right, do the same thing. Fairway 100 to 125. Tom Hoagie, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantley, Eric Cole, Denny McCarthy. Huh, look at you, Denny. It's a nice little range for you. Hideki, Victor Hovland, Russell Henley, Wyndham Clark, Justin Thomas. Okay, and if you're watching here on YouTube too, you can see how some of these are unique. Like Cantley being third in this range doesn't really line up to what the rest of his approach buckets are doing. Same thing for Denny, where a guy like obviously Scotty Scheffler, Tom Hoagie, Hideki, Hovland, Henley. These are a little bit more consistently green in the gradient, meaning that they rank higher more consistently versus where you see some spotty one-offs. So interesting to see. So I'm going to do this fairway 100 to 125. And now we will do the next fairway 125 to 150. Tom Hoagie, Corey Connors, Russell Henley, Sanjay M, Akshay Bhatia, Ludwig Olberg, Benny An, Scotty Scheffler, Siwoo Kim, Brian Harman. All right. Could see Hovland, Horschel, Straka, Fleetwood, a little bit right behind it. Fairway 125, 150. And this is over the last 50 rounds. So basically most of their 2024 rounds. I'm going to stop here. Last one, 150 to 175. And Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Corey Connors, Brian Harman, Aaron Rye, Keegan Bradley, shout out Keeks, Davis Thompson, Victor Hovland, Eric Cole, Austin Eckroat. Right behind it, Thomas Dietrich, Denny McCarthy again. Nice. Homa, found some of Homa's doing well. Xander Schauffele, Steven Yeager. Interesting, Nick Dunlap there too. All right. Now, to be fair, guys are going to be playing from the rough a little bit too, right? I mean, it's a fact. This is where this gets a little bit messy. I think, having it combined, and we'll have that soon, having approach proximities from both combined, but also that doesn't tell a great story either. So I love having the ability to bucket it out. So we're going to add the same through the rough, but again, we'll play around with how to weigh it. So from the rough, short rough stuff, 75 to 100, Thomas Dietrich, Sepp Straka, Will Zalatoris, Ludwig Oberg, Patrick Cantley, Tony Finau, Nick Dunlap, Cam Young, Tom Hoagie, Wyndham Clark, Akshay, Scotty, Seabez right behind it. Interesting here because this is a thought of like, okay, what if guys go a little bit aggressive, a little bit of distance, like guys that have distance in this mix here, which is, good deal of them. That could be a thing where that's a benefit to them, where they're playing from the rough and can handle it pretty well. Dietrich, you can see, is an outlier in terms of what he does from the rough at every other distance. Rough from 100 to 125. Justin Thomas, Davis Thompson, Sahith Theegala, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Billy Horschel, Sepp Straka, Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, Russell Henley, Taylor Pendrith. Listen for names that repeat, which I think is interesting. We'll see how they populate here. Rough 100, 125. We will move on to rough 125 to 150. Probably, I think, a bucket you would see more. The next two probably. At the top, Tony Finau, Sanjay M, Benny An, Justin Thomas, Matthew Pavon, Alex Noren, Shane Lowry, Jason Day, Scotty Scheffler, Hideki Matsuyama. Right behind it, Yeager, Cantley, Rye, Ludwig, Henley. All right. I'll put that in rough 125, 150. I don't think I cleared my other model, so we're gonna have a lot of stats in here before we do this. Rough from 150 to 175. Last bucket that I'm going to do here. Corey Connors, Matthew Pavon, Steven Yeager, Shane Lowry, JT Poston. Again, unique for Poston. Rest of it's not great. Colin Morikawa, Will Zalatoris, Akshay Bhatia, Sanjay M, Bobby Mack. Right behind it, Rory, Cam Davis, JT, Russell Henley. All right. Rough 150, 175. All right. We have really fast greens here. That is going to impact chipping for guys, scrambling, putting. So I want to take a look at that. I want to take a look at it in two separate ways. I want to go strokes gained short game. So SG, filter by condition. I'm going to put on green, speed, fast. And let's see short game in this scenario. Top of the board, Russell Henley, Thomas Dietrich, Jason Day, Tommy Fleetwood, Max Gracerman, Danny McCarthy, Xander Schauffele, Max Homa, Billy Horschel, Davis Thompson. So interesting. What about when we look at around the green in this scenario? Some of the same names. Taking out the putting. So, for Scotty and Davis Thompson to be kind of right there, right around the top 10 in short game, even though their putting numbers aren't great, speaks to how good they are around the green. They are literally 1 and 2 around the green here. Sample size pretty small though, especially for Davis Thompson. So we back out a little bit. Let's go last 12 months, see if we get a little bit of a bigger sample. Yeah, we get a better sample for these guys. So this is a little bit better. Decky, Homa, Dietrich, Denny, Xander is your top 5. Some of the other guys are right there, but I think this tells a better story of what we're looking to do. But again, maybe we bucket this out into each category and we'll go around the green on fast greens and then we go putting. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go around the green fast. And I'm going to go strokes gained putting on fast greens. And that's what we have this week. Some similar names here, which is interesting too. Your best putters on fast greens over the last 12 months: Thomas Dietrich, Ludwig Oberg, Max Homa, Denny McCarthy, Brian Harman, Billy Horschel, Rory McIlroy, Max Gracerman, Tom Hoagie, and Tommy Fleetwood. Interesting. All right. Putting fast. All right. Let's see what we get, guys. Unique model. Again, there are going to be a lot of stats here. Hit this create mixed condition model button. I need to exit out of all these stats. Yeah, see, I got all this other stuff in here too. All right, let's exit out of here. Sorry, I didn't prep this for you. Get all of these out. And we're going to look at we started with ball striking. Last 50. All right. This is our betting show ball striking model. Put this in here. We'll save it, make it an expert model for everyone to be able to see. It defaults to these settings, these weights. So that way it equals 100. But let's mess around with it. All right. Ball striking last 50 rounds. I want to give a good weight to that. Ball striking last 8. I'm going to give a good weight to that too. If I'm going to, again, we'll come back to these things. You're doing on the fly like this, you kind of have to check and adjust to see what we got. Approach last 24. I'm going to give that a full 10 there too. Fairway 100 to 75 to 100. I don't think we're going to get a lot of that. So I'm going to go, we're going to give 2.5 to each of the 75 to 100s, both of the rough and the fairway. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give 3 and 2 because I expect more fairways to be found than rough. So it should be somewhat calculated that way. So that's what we're going to do here to offset that. I'm going to do the same here. Fairway 100 to 125. We'll maybe give this 10 overall, right? Let's go 7 here and 3 here. We'll do the same here. Let's go fairway 7 from 125 to 150. And we'll go 3 from fairway or sort of rough 125 to 150. Where are we trending? All right. This is a little bit longer. I think we'll probably have more stuff in this 125, 150, 150, 175 range. But let's just go here. We'll go 7 again and we'll go 3 again. We're going to probably be able to bump this up a little bit, but that's okay. Around the green, we'll go short game total 10. We'll go 5 around the green, 5 putting. Okay. All right. So this is really what I wanted to do. I wanted more in these top ones anyway. So this is what we're going to be able to do. We're going to go 15 and 10 and 15 on approach. That gives us a bigger bucket. We got 15 to play with here through our approach ranges. So I'm just going to give a bump up to fairway ones, I think, first, because those I think matter a little bit. So go 10 here, 10 here, 7.5 here. We'll give these a little bit of a bump. Again, playing around with this to make sure it makes sense as well in terms of the distribution of shots, because I don't want to get so wonky where we're grading the rough a little bit higher. So let's go. We'll top it off here. We'll bump up our around the green putting stuff to 15, and this makes sense. I mean, this is a well distributed model where we're really relying at the top for our ball striking, our approach. These are the things that I think are the stickiest. That I think they matter the absolute most. Even this, I'm going to downgrade these a little bit. I'd rather give a little bit extra to these short-term ball striking stuff. All right, good. Let's see what we get. I think we're going to get Scotty and Xander at the top still, but I'm interested to see if that's the case because we're bringing in a little bit more nuance than we typically would. So save and generate, spits it out. Let's use it to make some decisions. All right. Yes, we did get Xander and Scotty, and Xander at the top. Scotty 1, Xander 2. And you can see there's just not a lot of Scotty outside the top 10. Okay, barely outside the top 10 and a few here. But for the most part, he's right there. Xander a little bit further back, but some of the other stuff, the stuff that really matters, fantastic. Aaron Rye, 3rd in the model. Okay. It makes sense. Russell Henley, 4th in the model. All right. I don't need much arm twisting to get to Russell Henley, but here we are. Tommy Fleetwood, 5th in the model. Hideki, 6. Ludwig, 7. Tom Hoagie, 8. I thought Hoagie would benefit from this model, and he did. And I think the putting actually was a surprise for Hoagie as well. You see 9th in putting on fast greens over the last calendar year. So probably surprised me. Hovland 9, Shane Lowry 10, Tony Finau is 11, Sepp Straka is 12, Corey Connors 13, Taylor Pendrith 14. The Canucks back-to-back, big week for the Canucks. President's Cup stuff coming up. Things get locked in after this. This is kind of last shot really to make impressions. I think they're both probably on the team. I would be shocked if Connors isn't. I think Pendrith's playing really good golf and might not be the best course fit for Royal Montreal, but I feel like you got to have at least 2 Canadians. You can make the case for 4 or 5 Canadians. They're probably mostly looking on the outside looking in at this point, but Connors, Pendrith, probably your front runners there. Patrick Hanley, 15th in the model. Wyndham Clark, like I said, expected to be popular, 18. Morikawa, 20, some notable ones. Rory, 22 in the model, which is notable because we saw some good form from Nick Dunlap. He's 28th in the model. Trying to find some other guys that I think are noteworthy. Again, 50-man field, so being way back in the model is interesting. Cam Davis, really, really, really good with the short wedges. Still finished 48th overall in the model. So the rest of it's kind of not great for Cam Davis, but short, finds the fairway from a short distance. He's really one of the best on tour. See Adam Hadwin got to make some room up this week to get himself in here. So yeah, there's some opportunities here in terms of, maybe not outright bets, but I don't know, maybe some other thoughts here. I'll share my outright bets for you. 2 clicks, early Monday, 1 number available still, 1 number gone. First number gone. Victor Hovland, 28-1. Like you saw earlier when I shared the odds screens, Hovland's like basically 18's the best you can find right now. 28 was an outlier even at the time at Bet Rivers. There were some 25s early, and those also got steamed. And just a really good price on Hovland, who has shown a little bit more ceiling than you would think, and not been a great year, obviously, for Hovland. We've seen some spurts of it. Again, last week we saw it. Ball striking was fantastic. Led the field in ball striking last week at TPC Southwind, 4th in off the tee, 5th in approach. Again, the putter's been a problem at times. It's been streaky. Putter's been looking good. Where did he rank here in our putting model here? Fast putting services, 18th. So, above the middle of the pack or so, which is good to see. Obviously, the around the green has not been great, but I thought around the green was going to really matter last week too. Small greens at TPC Southwind. But like Hideki, for the most part, played really good around the greens, but the strokes gain stuff leads you to believe not really, because he had obviously a couple of bad chips and lost some strokes there on Sunday, messed up his around the green stuff. And for the week, he was negative around the green, even though if you watched him play all week, it's some magical stuff around the green. And he's one of the best around the green players on tour. He actually is first in around the green model that we just built. So the around the green stuff can be tricky in terms of, around the green and putting matter less than everything else. That's why I built the model like leaning on ball striking and approach. It is the most predictable, sticky baseline stat for any golfer week in and week out. And, it just intrinsically makes sense. If you are painting fairways and finding greens, you're having to rely less on your scrambling ability. Now, there are going to be times where it matters for sure, but elite ball strikers, it matters significantly less. It's kind of part of why Scotty and Xander are cheat codes in a way, is because they're so good tee to green, but they're also both awesome from a chipping around the green standpoint. Xander is significantly better putter, but like they're both amazing around the green, and that's why they've kind of separated themselves from the field. But I know that's kind of the bugaboo for Hovland, but you sometimes have to close your eyes and think that it's hit or miss. He's back with his coach, still not the results of last year, but the ball striking ceiling is insane. We have the floor ceiling model. Let's look at it. I'll show you the model. You can look here in the floor ceiling, and this is a really cool feature. Great for DFS. We talk about like spike putting weeks. Like, what does that actually look like? How often does that happen? How often are guys actually gaining X on the field? But if you look here, let's go ball striking 2024. Hovland's less consistent than your top tier guys. Right? And you see how often someone's gaining strokes ball striking, right? Xander and Scotty are gaining strokes ball striking. I don't know why it's got 2024. Oh, I have fast greens on. Let me take this off. All right, it's giving us all our rounds. So again, this makes more sense. I was like, wait a second. Scotty is gaining strokes ball striking 92.2% of the time this year. It's absolutely bonkers. You can see the delta between even him and Xander, who has been awesome. It really steps up here when you go to gaining a strike ball striking. I mean, this is comical, right? This shows you in numbers how much better Scotty is ball striking than everyone else on tour. Like, you can be gaining strokes ball striking one or more 50% of the time. You're top 10 on tour. Scotty's doing it almost 85% of the time. Wild stuff. It's just bonkers, right? Like, the deltas continue on for Scotty all the way through, right? 20% more often than Xander. He's gaining 2 strokes ball striking. Just craziness. When you start to get into this section, 4 or more, it doesn't happen very often, but here we are. Look who's making a name for himself. You see Hovland is up here 10% of the time. He's getting strokes ball striking 4 or more, right? Like, again, 4 or more shots in the field ball striking is a wild number. Harder to do in a top heavy field, 50-man event, but again, it's happening. And no one's gaining 5 or more strokes ball striking this season than Viktor Hovland. Doesn't happen very often, but there's a ceiling to Hovland that is really only rivaled by Scotty in terms of really top tier. You can see some of the other guys here. It's Scotty, Hovland, Ludwig, Xander, Tony. Davis Thompson's kind of there, but those are your guys that are north of 7% on gaining 4 more strokes ball striking. Pretty wild stuff. Who doesn't really have a ceiling ball striking wise? Well, I mean, 2 or more. Denny, Sanjay, JT Poston, Norin, Bobby Mack, which is interesting. I mean, Bobby Mack's putted his face off a couple times this year. Dietrich, it's been a disappointing season for Fitzpatrick. I thought we'd, maybe bounce back after he took the weights out of his clubs. Not great for some of these other guys here. But yeah, I mean, I went to the well on Hovland, and 28 was just a bonkers number. So Hovland was my first click at 28. Love it. Just again, gained almost 0.83 strokes putting last week. Loves these POA bent putting surfaces. There is best putting surfaces from a performance standpoint. So we lean there. Victor Hovland at 28. One number that you could still get is our guy Big Tone, who finished right inside the top 10 on the model here that we just built. 11th. Okay. 35. I like that number. FanDuel still has it, or Caesar still has it, I think. FanDuel right there at 30 or so. Ball striking exceptional all season. Putters kept him out of the winner's circle, though he has turned the tide a little bit. He was basically flat to the field putting last week, but he gained at least 0.43 strokes putting over the last 5 events leading up to last week. So really strong putting performances after some really abysmal stuff from Tony. His strokes gained off the tee stuff has been not great. It's mostly pulled down by the bad second round Open Championship stuff, where he got caught in the wind, and I think he lost like over 2 strokes off the tee. And it's, I think, manipulating some of Tony's off the tee stuff, and that's impacted some of his ball striking stuff. But really, when you look at some of these, let's look at Tony in terms of the approach stuff. So 3rd in the approach model that we built. He's all the fairway stuff, I think, that matters. Tony is excellent. Like 7th, 2nd. You can see here, where is he? Fairway. He's been not as good, but again, overall fairway in shorter irons too, has been great. So overall approach, he is 3rd. So Tony makes his hay really being dialed in with the long irons. So he gets knocked a little bit comparatively, moving to the thought process that we'll have shorter irons. But again, he ranked 4th in the overall model that I built last week, or yesterday, I'm sorry, on the show. Just been in the mix outside again of the Open Championship. T17 or better in like each of his past 7 starts. It's kind of just always around and hanging out. So those are my 2 outright bets. I'm going to click back here and look at some of the names here. Let's go into, let's say, top 10s and look at some of these prices. Some of the names that played well in our model here. I'm going to pull this up so I can look at it on this screen. We'll look at some of these names here and then look at back here at this. All right. So names we weren't necessarily expecting here. Let's see here. We had Aaron Rai finished 3rd in the model that we just built here. Aaron Rai to top 10, available basically 3-1. Probably an interesting look. Aaron Rai, and look, they're making you pay a little bit here for Aaron Rai to top 20. You can get even odds plus 100 on any Sugar House or Bet Rivers books, minus 105 on other books. Makes some sense. Again, top 20, 50-man field, and a course that seems to be really well suited for Aaron Rai's game. Like that quite a bit. Russell Henley was 4th in our model. You can see Russell Henley higher up here. You got to lay a little bit more juice, minus 120 to finish inside the top 20. If you like Russell Henley to top 10, you're going to get him out to 250 on FanDuel. Probably a worthwhile look. Fleetwood was 5th in our model. Can't imagine Tommy loses putting, strokes putting like that again. It would be wild. You can see here 2-1 on ESPN, plus 180 there to top 10, top 20, probably around even odds as well. or I'm sorry, top 20, we obviously go the wrong way. Minus 175, 150 on Bet Rivers. So those guys are all nice looks in that market compared to where they finished in our model here. So something to look at there. Let's see some other names. Tom Hoagie was 8th in our model, which again, incredible ability from the fairway and approach wise, and was 9th in our fast putting model. And we can go down the board a little bit for Tom Hoagie. Ooh, baby. Tom Hoagie, top 20, 2-1, plus 210. Book's probably not offering much in the T30 markets this week in North Day. You can get minus 120 on Hoagie. But hey, like, take the leap. Don't lay the juice. Get some plus odds. Some books will offer with ties available. You'll pay a little bit more for that, but I think it's probably worthwhile in most instances. But again, 2-1 on Hoagie to top 20. Finished 8th in our model here, which I think is an interesting look. Corey Connors is another that I thought would finish really high in the model. Thought he maybe even finished higher than he did, though he finished 13th. Playing good golf, has a lot to play for this week. Connors minus 105 to top 20. I think that's a very, very interesting look. Billy Horschel playing really good golf. I think he wants to make his way into this President's Cup team. Has been around a little bit longer than some of these guys. Has played some competitive rounds in Colorado. Not at this course, but Colorado. Minus 110 to top 20. Again, another interesting look. I think Horschel, again, form is nice. You can see ball striking 8th overall here in recent form. You can see here strong 5th in the fast putting model ranking. Billy Ho, probably a nice look based off of where he populated for us here in our little short-term model. See other names that made sense. I think Akshay makes some sense. You're not getting a ton of value or discount on Akshay these days, but slipped a little bit. I guess, we're getting plus 125 on Akshay to top 20. I don't hate that whatsoever. Nick Dunlap makes some sense too. Again, just current form has been pretty solid. He was really nervous to get himself into this tournament and got himself there. Maybe plays a little bit more freely here, knowing there's really no pressure for him to get to the Tour Championship. His year is May next year, basically, because he is here and made the top 50 here. So plus 150 on Nick Dunlap, I don't hate. Let's look for some of the top tier guys, so we can get some interesting top 10 numbers. We had Scotty and Xander. Again, top 10 numbers for them are just insane in prices. Let's see. Hovland plus 150 makes some sense. I'm on Big Tone, obviously, to win as well, so I can back Tony comfortably here at to T10 at plus 240. Don't hate that. Wyndham Clark, you're paying a little bit of the tax that Wyndham is taking in the outright market here, but you still find anywhere from 225 to 250 on Wyndham to top 10. If you have a little bit more conviction on some of the other guys here, we talked about, like the Rise, Henleys, Fleetwoods, those guys, Connors, they're right here around 250 to 3-1 to top 10, which I don't hate. Let's see what the prices are getting on. Xander to top 5 at plus money. I mean, feels like a really good bet. Feels like a nice, I don't know what's not as nice Xander track with the way the guy's playing right now. Scotty, you still have to lay minus 137. But again, like, if you watch golf last weekend, Scotty was not very happy with himself and nearly had a shot to win that golf tournament. So, I don't love laying minus 137 for a guy to top 5, but we're kind of talking a different stratosphere with Xander and Scotty right now. So interesting looks there. If you're looking to get down in the finishing position market. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Again, you got a lot of me this week, probably more than anyone needs, more than my wife needs. That's for sure. But again, subscribe before you take off, whether you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. We thank you for that. Appreciate it. We'll continue to come back on Wednesday with our DFS show, take a little bit more of a deep dive from a DFS standpoint. And going to continue to roll golf all season, guys. Take advantage of that deal. Share it at the very top here. Let me put it up for you again. Get the yearly subscription for $10. Check out Rebet. This is go over to betspertsgolf.com. You can find this article on the site. There's a link here. Use promo code BSG. $10 on Rebet with promo code BSG gets you a full 12 months at Betsperts Golf for no additional cost. Insane. We're continuing to add to the rabbit hole. We're going to have new stats, new filters, new things that you haven't even thought of that you're going to be really excited to have as part of your repertoire for handicapping golf. Take advantage of that. Again, appreciate you hanging out with me today. Check out the Monday stream if you want the full model, or just get the subscription. Check out other models on the site. And again, thumbs up